You've probably heard the term emotional intelligence thrown around a lot, but what does that actually mean? It's one of those concepts that sounds familiar, but I think its real power is often totally misunderstood. It's less about some passive feeling and way, way more about an active discipline.
So let's just tackle a huge misconception right out of the gate. When you picture someone with high emotional intelligence, what do you see? Is it just someone who's always nice, always agreeable, always smiling? I mean, that could be part of it, for sure. But if that's the whole picture for you, you're missing the most important piece of the puzzle.
And this gets right to the heart of it. The myth is that it's all about being perpetually calm and pleasant. But the truth? Well, the truth is a lot more challenging. Real emotional intelligence isn't about the things you do. It's about the things you consciously choose not to do. It's about avoiding that impulsive reaction, that snap judgment, that defensive argument. It's all about deliberate control.
Okay, so that brings us to our very first habit. And honestly, this one is the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about: avoiding that instant knee-jerk reaction. People with high emotional intelligence create a little bit of space, a pause, between something happening and how they respond to it.
This is such a perfect example of the power of that pause. Okay, picture this. You get a critical email from your boss or a coworker. The undisciplined gut reaction path, it's to immediately fire back a defensive reply fueled by that first flash of frustration. But the disciplined path, it's all about creating a gap. Take a breath, go for a walk, just wait. That simple act of waiting stops a temporary mood from making a permanent mistake.
So, building right on top of that foundation of pausing, we get to the second habit, avoiding the blame game. And this is a huge mental shift. It's about moving from making other people responsible for how you feel to realizing that your emotions are, in the end, your own.
And just look at the difference in the language here. It is night and day. You made me feel angry. That's an accusation. It automatically puts the other person on the defensive, and you're basically giving your power away. But when you shift to I feel angry when this happens, well, that's just a statement of fact about your own experience. It shows self-awareness, and it completely changes the dynamic. It opens the door for a real conversation instead of just making things worse.
All right, but what about when you just plain disagree with someone? It happens, right? Habit number 3 is all about avoiding that urge to argue just to win. For someone who's emotionally intelligent, the goal isn't to be right. The goal is to get to a shared understanding.
So the key here is what they actively let go of. They release that ego-driven need to win the point. They stop themselves from over-explaining and talking themselves into a corner. And they definitely don't argue just for sport. Instead, all of that energy gets channeled into one single thing, genuinely trying to see the situation from the other person's point of view.
Now we get to what might be the toughest habit of them all: active self-reflection. This means you have to avoid the easy path of never questioning yourself, and this isn't just, zoning out and thinking. It's a courageous act of turning the spotlight inward and asking some pretty hard questions. And it often starts with this simple but incredibly powerful question: could I be wrong here? Just allowing yourself to ask that question is an act of real humility. It immediately starts to break down those defensive walls our egos love to build, and it cracks the door open for learning and growth. And from there, you can go a little deeper with this next question. Asking, what is my role in this situation? Well, that's the ultimate antidote to blame. It's the moment you stop pointing fingers out there and start looking at your own contribution to the dynamic, no matter how small you think it is. This is where real accountability starts. And finally, this is the question that can reframe a totally negative experience into fuel for growth. Instead of just desperately wanting that uncomfortable feeling to go away, they ask, what can I learn from this discomfort? That mindset transforms mistakes and conflicts from things to be ashamed of into essential lessons that help you become a better, more self-aware person.
All right, our final habit. This one is like a superpower for your emotional well-being. Avoiding the trap of taking everything personally. It's the deep understanding that what other people say and do is so often just a projection of their own reality.
The key skill here has a technical name, depersonalization, but don't get hung up on the word. It's simply the ability to separate your self-worth from someone else's mood or behavior. When someone's rude or critical, the emotionally intelligent person gets that it's almost always a projection of their stress, their bad day, or their insecurities. It's rarely a true reflection of you. Getting this frees you from that exhausting trap of always needing validation from other people.
And this really brings everything full circle, doesn't it? Emotional intelligence is not about being perfect. As it says here, it's about emotional discipline, self-awareness, and quiet control. It's all that internal work that lets you consciously choose how you respond to the world around you.
So if there is one single thing you take away from all this, let it be this. Emotional intelligence is almost a subtractive art. It's about mastering the pause, not blaming others, letting go of the need to win, looking inward, and not taking things so personally. It's defined by the reactions you manage to hold back.
And that leaves us with one final question, and this one's for you to think about. Looking back at these 5 habits, pausing before reacting, owning your feelings, seeking to understand, reflecting on your role, and not taking things personally, which one of those hits home for you? Which habit of avoidance, if you started practicing it today, would make the biggest difference in your life?